Hello, you beautiful people. It's Blast Cat Badger here. And we're getting into more insanity. We're going to try to drive Badger more loopy than he usually is. So, we're going to do some more fun stuff. I should say that much. Before I get into it, it's a big deal that you help support the channel so that not all of the channel's finances come from a very few select people. So yeah, click the join button real fast. Look at the two different tiers. There's okay human, decent human, both of which are stupendously cheap. It's not going to be the amount that you give. It's going to be the amount of you that contribute to the channel and hopefully fund me doing a lot more cool stuff and maybe doing a mini series. But that being said, it's a big deal. Click that join button, please. And that's the only thing I majorly ask y'all to do. Besides merch, if you're interested in that, if that's the only way you want to do it, go ahead and check it out. Link in the description box down below. That being said, let me do this little fancy schmancy doohickey, and we're doing the Volgun. The Volgun SCP-1984. Reference to George Orwell. Much? Dead Hand. Keter. Hostile SCP. Dead Hand? What? Here, let me... Oh, wait, something's going wrong with my... Let me fix that real fast. Okay, that should be better. All right, y'all ready? I don't know if I am or not, but I'll decide once we're most of the way through, and my sanity is slowly slipping away more and more. So let's get into it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Volgun.
My name is Dr. Miller, and...
Dr. Miller, my bad. I keep forgetting he says, like, in every single thing, he's like, I am playing the part of Dr. Miller, and stuff like, yeah, let's keep going.
The SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-1984. Object Class, Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-1984 is to be secured at Armed Containment Complex 4, kilometers south-southeast of Verkhoyansk, Sakha Republic, Russian Federation. Mobile Task Force Omega-59, Nechayeva's Wolves, and Mobile Task Force Sigma-18, Chessmasters, are to be permanently stationed at Complex 4. SCP-1984 itself is to be contained in Warehouse 5E in a standard humanoid containment cell, modified to be enclosed within a Faraday cage to prevent external broadcasts from reaching the interior. The only...
Wait, what? What? Dead Hand. I'm not drawing any kind of deduction at all. Usually I have an idea of like kind of sort of something, but with this one I'm drawing a blank. Like, why is it so dangerous that you can't allow broadcasts to go in unless there's... Is it like a switch or something? I don't know. Let's keep going. My sanity is already slipping away here.
The broadcasts allowed to reach SCP-1984 are those created by the Information Control Team. All broadcast signals in the vicinity of Complex 4 are to be monitored. At all times, the Information Control Team shall be staffed with no fewer than 15 members and housed in Dormitory 3F, adjacent to Studio 1A. Among these must be at least one military historian, 2 personnel with extensive background in international diplomacy, 1 economist, 2 actors with significant stage experience, and 3 personnel with at least 10 years of experience in the Soviet Russian media. SCP-1984 is to receive a narrative transmitted via radio and television broadcasts depicting an ongoing state of détente between the Soviet Union and NATO, designed to resemble official releases from TASS, the Associated Press, the BBC, and other established Cold War-era news organizations.
Oh, so it basically is a switch. It's just like an SCP switch. That's what I'm picking up so far. Kind of like when like the Soviets during the Cold War were gonna make like the Dead Man Switch, like world-ending, like you know, giant container, like tanker oil ship sized nuclear bomb, to where if you didn't consistently transmit signals to it after a certain amount of time, it would just go off and wipe out the whole planet, essentially. So this is like the SCP equivalent. Like, this thing is like basically that, to put it simply. Okay, now the deduction gears are turning, but I mean, I don't get how that correlates with the creature, although they're probably going to get into that. But yeah, you know, hey, you know, if we can't conquer the world, then no one can have it, right? Right? Freaking leftists.
Description: SCP-1984 was created by the Soviet Union during the 1980s to serve as its second strike nuclear deterrence mechanism. SCP-1984 is in fact the system referred to in Western media as Dead Hand, an automated...
What'd I tell you? I didn't even see it. Oh, well, yeah. Never mind, it's on the text now. But yeah. What'd I tell you? Oh, damn. I'm the people's champ. Just kidding. It doesn't take an absolute genius to figure that much out, right? Dead Hand, hostile SCP. You have to consistently broadcast to it to keep it convinced that there's an ongoing state of detente since its inception still is going on and hasn't changed. Otherwise, it'll go hostile and just wipe out everything. You know, like, doesn't take a genius to put two and two together. Although nowadays, I sound more and more like a genius compared to my fellow human beings, which is actually it's one part hilarious, on the other part terrifying. Then again, what else comes out of super leftism? I mean, at least everybody's willing to gang up on the right, right? Right? Let's keep going. You know, like directions, you know, left, right, devil's hand, angel's hand, or is it devil's hand, God's hand? Something like that, right? Right? Totally. In Minecraft.
Automated nuclear response commonly believed to be triggered by the destruction of the Soviet command and control structure. However, rather than being a network of sensors and computing systems, SCP-1984 is an autonomous, self-aware entity of varying observable existence with direct access to Russian nuclear sites and the ability to commence the launch of ICBMs stored therein. SCP-1984 consists of the embalmed remains of Sergeant Murat Chernikov, a Russian soldier killed during the Soviet-Afghan War in 1982. While Sergeant Chernikov is referenced in Project December documentation, no official Russian Federation records exist regarding him at this time. SCP-1984 serves as the locus for SCP-1984-01. In its dormant state, SCP-1984-01 is a semi-sentient consciousness capable of receiving and processing broadcast signals. SCP-1984-01 can apparently discern the informational content of any broadcast it receives. During times of what it perceives to be heightened global military tensions, especially those involving the Russian Federation and the former satellite states of the Soviet Union, SCP-1984-01 will begin to manifest and becomes able to interact with the physical world to varying degrees. Manifestations have ranged from a barely perceptible, hazy human-shaped outline believed to be related to an unintercepted report regarding the 2004 Russian presidential election, to a glowing bright red apparition in the distended shape of a child missing its legs. Containment Breach 1984-13, 0807, 2008. When SCP-1984-1 manifests in this manner, its secondary abilities become apparent. These include the ability to directly interface with nuclear command systems within an approximately 50-meter radius, and combat capabilities focused on severe disruption of the human nervous system. When SCP-1984 fully manifests, it can move at speeds measured up to 140 kilometers per hour.
140 kilometers per hour. What's that, like 120 miles an hour? Something like that? Insanity. Like, why can all these SCPs run, like, I want to say 10 times faster than me for a stupendous amount of time? It's not fair. It's not fair. I do my 3060s and 6120s and my 120 and then I do my let's see, 120 seconds. I do my 120 180s. Yeah. My 3060s, 6120s, and 120 180s. I do them all, okay? I sprint up mountains for gosh darn sake. Why can't I have super speed yet? Is it just because I'm a lame human who was a super grunt and now I'm retired? Is that why? Is that why? Or is it just like life is unfair? Wait, life is unfair. So I should keep working. I'm going to keep running up those mountains. You know what? Then again, to make me feel better, this thing is stuck in a freaking cage like 24/7, and I'm putting miles on myself every damn day. So you know what? Suck it, SCPs. I got more miles combined in my lifetime than all of y'all have your entire existence. So suck it. Suck it. Point one for Badger.
And will immediately attempt to travel to the nearest functioning, land-based strategic rocket installation housing R-36M ICBMs. The nearest installation is currently 81 kilometers northwest of Armed Containment Complex 4.
Although the craziest thing about it, though, I think, besides like the ridiculous speed, although I can't imagine I could keep it up for very long, but besides the ridiculous speed, is essentially it attacks the nervous system, right? It interferes with the central nervous system. I wonder how it does that, though. Is it like static shock and just can shock you into oblivion? Or superhero static shock? Man, that was such a baller freaking show. Good show, by the way. Still good today. Anyway, but yeah, it like interferes with the CNS, right? And there's a few ways you could do it yourself. Although quite usually it involves like blunt force trauma to the max. Or it involves like a blade being inserted in a certain spot. Close around somewhere around like the base of the skull, shuts someone up very quickly and very quickly stops their functioning very fast after a very short struggle. In Minecraft. But yeah, I wonder how it does it. Is it like they call interference this thing like putting its fingers through the back of your freaking neck and like ripping out your central nervous system? Is that how it works? Like, it doesn't specify. It just says it interferes with. And that essentially, it's hostile to anyone that it perceives as interfering with it, and will engage any personnel in its an immediate path. So I'm guessing it just kills people? If that's the case, then why does it matter if it interferes with the CNS or I don't know. So many dumb questions. I get it. Let's keep going.
Access its command system and launch all missiles at their present targets. It will repeat this process until it has launched all remaining missiles under Russian control. SCP-1984-01 is extremely hostile to any human it perceives as interfering with it, and will engage any personnel in its immediate path. SCP-1984-1 has shown limited vulnerability to microwave radiation. However, this serves to misdirect and confuse the entity rather than directly harm it. Recovery Log 1984. In early 1984, Dr. Sergei, the Soviet Union's official liaison with the Foundation, contacted O5, overseer of Eurasian affairs at the time, to discuss what was characterized as a matter of grave importance to the continued survival of the human race. At a secret conference in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, coinciding with the 1984 Winter Olympics to provide cover for the presence of high-ranking state officials from several nations, Soviet and United States officials briefed Overwatch Command on the true nature of Dead Hand, then assumed by the Foundation to be a traditional nuclear deterrent, and the existence of SCP-1984. In the wake of information obtained by Soviet officials after the suicide of Dr. Anatoly Lavrentyev and the subsequent destruction of his research facility, SCP-1984 was revealed to be both increasingly beyond the control of the Soviet government and designed outside of original specifications, rather than serving as an assured second strike nuclear response in the event of the complete destruction of Soviet leadership. SCP-1984-01 was actively attempting to initiate a nuclear first strike at targets in the United States, France, West Germany, and the People's Republic of China. At the request of a joint US-Soviet delegation, the Foundation agreed to assume control of SCP-1984 and immediately commence containment procedures. Dr. a surviving senior researcher with Project December and codenamed Ezra by the Foundation, was appointed as Director of Armed Containment Complex 4.
Okay, so too long didn't watch for a lot of people, unless they're watching with me. Essentially, this story is another one that falls into the folly of human beings basically doing much of any kind of anything having to do with, voluminous amounts of power of any kind. Decentralization all the way down. Individual absolutism. Convert. Any shoe. So basically this follows like the theme of like what we've seen humanity going through, is that we'll put people in power or allow people to come into power because it's the people who hold the true power. All right. It's just that everybody's so comfy, cush, and lazy nowadays. They don't want to actually do anything about anything, right? Unless you're the leftists. Then you get away with everything, obviously. But yeah, and then because of those people who are thinking that I know better than thee all the way through, right? They're going to do all these dumb things where it's like, okay, we're going to make stuff that's going to end the world completely just because we have the power to do so and feel like our regime, because they got the ivory tower complex, whatever, cathedral thought process going, or the absolute power corrupts absolutely, and power corrupts, trope of everything. So yeah, although the Soviets have done a lot worse stuff than the U.S. ever has, we've done a lot of really screwed up things, but not to the extent the Soviets and the Chinese Communist Party ever did, or North Korea for that matter, or Pol Pot, also. Why are the leftists the most evil people on the planet? Like, you would think the right gets completely shaded all the way through, but nobody talks about all the evil, like, supremely beyond what Hitler did. Beyond what Hitler did. Yet nobody's allowed to talk about it. Really weird. And then, of course, the tropes are followed in SCP. I love it. But whatever. I'm just some pendejo, sitting in his chair on the internet, right? Right? Anyway. But yeah, so it's following that path, and this sounds very much like it was inspired heavily by the Soviets creating their own dead man switch. In real life, they did this. Look it up. Don't believe me. Don't take what I say as gospel. Look this up yourself. The Soviets made like an oil tanker sized nuclear device, or they were going to. I think they actually made it, and then they dismantled it because they were like, yeah, this is too insane. Because if that thing went off, it would have wiped out the whole planet. Essentially, that's how huge it was. People think the Tsar Bomba was big. Son. This thing was like 100 times as powerful as the Tsar Bomba. Yeah, insanity, right? That's what this sounds very much like it was inspired by that, which is really cool. Really cool. I like this. Although, honestly, this is more like weird than scary for me, honestly. Although some people get a bigger kick out of it than I do, but that's just me. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and we're going to continue the video.
Incident Report 1984 1. On 08/11/1984, United States President Ronald Reagan joked that, "I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes," prior to a campaign speech. Thousands of media outlets reported on the president's remarks, and in the ensuing signal traffic, an audio recording of the event broadcast by the People's Republic of China's Xinhua news agency reached SCP-1984. Researchers note, "We still do not understand how transmissions are able to occasionally bypass the Faraday structure enclosing 1984. Studies are ongoing." Upon receiving the transmission, SCP-1984-01 immediately underwent a full manifestation event with no detectable warning signs. SCP-1984-01 breached containment at 03:08 hours and was immediately engaged by Mobile Task Force Sigma-18. Upon sighting Mobile Task Force operatives, SCP-1984-01 assumed the form of a blue translucent emaciated woman dressed in traditional Pashtun attire and began attacking. According to video logs, Private and Captain began exhibiting signs of neurological trauma, such as profuse bleeding from the ears, seizures, and leakage of copious amounts of what appeared to be cerebrospinal fluid from the nose and eyes before team members equipped with specialized weaponry could train directed microwave pulses at SCP-1984-1, holding it temporarily at bay.
So this thing... Okay, so basically it's like Alice when... I think it was... I want to say it was Resident Evil 2, the movie, right? Because in the end of Resident Evil 2... Alice comes out from destroying the lab essentially. And I think it's actually, it's either actually her or a clone of her. And she ends up looking through the security camera like this. And then suddenly, the security guard, that poor flub boy, who's just manning a desk, all right, not taking any direct action besides letting people know she's out now. You know, he starts bleeding from his eyes, ears, nose, mouth. He's like, oh, 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 oh. And like, just because she looked at him. That's what it sounds like this SCP can do. So, okay, now I understand how it affects people. It's psychic or whatever, or it's got psionic powers or psi power or whatever you want to call it. Telepathy, whatever, something like that. Cool, let's move on.
While Mobile Task Force Sigma-18 attempted to neutralize SCP-1984-01, members of the Information Control Team hastily began recording a simulated television broadcast designed to return it to a dormant state. The first attempt, video log 1984-84.42, was interrupted by the sound of a wall collapsing 80 meters away, the result of a failed attempt by Mobile Task Force Sigma-18 members to initiate Emergency Protocol 12. The second attempt succeeded, although footage had to be edited to remove one broadcaster who began suffering what appeared to be a stroke. The resulting broadcast consisted of a staged BBC News update stating that the Politburo had been in on the joke, and previously recorded contingency footage of General Secretary Konstantin Chernenko explicitly stating that the Soviet nuclear forces were not on heightened alert. Fighting between SCP-1984-01 and Mobile Task Force Sigma-18 continued for approximately 15 minutes after the Information Control Team broadcast its report. However, SCP-1984-1 soon began to fade and its attacks decreased in intensity, until containment was re-established at 0541 hours. With 13 Mobile Task Force operatives killed in action, 4 support staff dead, and 8 more staff rendered permanently disabled by traumatic brain injuries, Incident 1984-1 remains the deadliest containment breach yet recorded for SCP-1984. Recovered Project December documentation. Head researcher's note. The following documents are fragments recovered from the destroyed laboratory of Dr. Anatoly Lavrentiev, director of Project December. The vast majority of information from this facility was lost, and most documents recovered have sustained heavy fire or water damage. This archive was provided by the Soviet government upon transfer of custody of SCP-1984 and the appointment of Ezra as site director.
You know, it's really hard to imagine the Soviet Union giving up really much of shit. I mean, they really didn't truly start to fall apart until 90, I want to say 91. I think it was around 91 when the Soviet Union started to really actually break apart and fragment into all these different nation states and stuff like that, right? So yeah, how they pulled that off? Well, either it was way too much for the Soviets to take the gamble on, and they were like, here, you know what? You can have it. All right? You can have it because it's dangerous to you more than us, right? Because it's only going to launch nukes and stuff like that at the Western Bloc, right? You know, the NATO and stuff like that. The UN, right? It's not going to launch missiles at Mother Russia. Mother Russia. Blah, blah, blah. I can't put the R's in. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's not going to launch missiles at the motherland, right? So yeah, you know, so the Soviets would be perfectly safe if they gave it up to the U.S., to the Foundation and stuff like that, right? So yeah, that would actually make this make a lot more sense.
Because of the secrecy of Project December and Dr. Lavrentiev's triggering of numerous failsafe measures prior to his suicide, these documents are the only source of direct information on SCP-1984 besides Ezra. Documents translated from the original Russian into English by researcher. Fragment 2C. Suspected to be a memorandum from Dr. Lavrentiev to an unknown high-ranking Soviet military official. Date unknown, but assumed to be from between 1980 to 1981. Due respect, the game theorists' beloved idea of a second strike mechanism is just as ignorant as the comrades they criticize. You will find one man out of 1,000 who will push the button that wins the war. Not many will want the blood of millions on their hands, but some will do it to ensure an end to the conflict. This they use to justify themselves. But how many men will push the button after the bombs have fallen? How many will sign the death warrant of the human race and finish off what survivors there may be left? The threat may serve to keep us safe, but the act is only within the mind of an unreachable madman. Perimeter may be automated, but it still must be initiated by a human. And not one of us is capable of ending the world merely for the sake of ending it. The solution then becomes obvious. End fragment. Fragment 12W. Notes found in a charred binder that are not consistent with other materials recovered. Written in English. Original source of document unknown. Several unintelligible handwritten notes in what is presumably Russian are present in the margins.
I don't know. I'm a lot more pessimistic. You know, I've encountered enough people in my time to just assume that pretty much anyone can have that capacity. Pretty much anyone. You can speculate all day. But here's the thing. Vast majority of those who are in any position or close to any position or follow the same ideology as the type of people who did stuff like this, they're all capable of it. Every single one. For all I know, I am. Right? That's why I'm a bit more realistic in my approach to these things. Because I've witnessed it myself. I've been to South America. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Juarez, Tijuana. I've been to Sinaloa. Right? I've been to Guatemala. I've been to Afghanistan, Iraq, different parts of the Middle East, Africa, Europe. People don't know there's some stuff that does go down in Europe. You know, the minor parts of Asia, right? And in all of that time, I've come to this conclusion. The vast half of the human population, about the vast half of it, right? Of those who are in the population that are close to, associated, or take orders from, or follow the same ideology as those who would, you know, make the decision to press the button are just as, I would say, willing and able and have that capacity to be ordered to press that button. They're just doing what they're told, right? And everybody's going to say in the comments, that's never been a valid defense, Badger. How can you say it? Well, because the vast majority of people are lazy. They're lazy, right? If someone is unable to, under their own power, provide housing, food in their belly, you know, and money in their pocket, if they're not able to do all these things themselves on their own merit, they're going to work for someone else, and they're going to be almost as obedient as a dog to that someone else. What's the saying? You're only 3 miles away from absolute anarchy. It's true. People are lazy. Very lazy. Okay, you can throw all the moralistic crap at it you want, all the ethical crap at it you want, but here's the thing. At the end of the day, human beings are still another animal that lives on the planet. We are. All right? We made up the ethics. We made up morality. We made that up. We made it up so that civilization could continue. It wasn't something that just came about, right? It's not intrinsic to us. If it was, there'd be zero crime. There wouldn't be any murder, kidnap, a bushel of round fruity things happening to people, right? There'd be no GRAPE, right? Or EPAR. There wouldn't be any EPAR. Spell that the other way, right? I'm trying to avoid demonetization. But there wouldn't be any of that if it was an intrinsic thing. Because here's the thing, right, that everybody misses somehow, even though I repeat it ad nauseum, and I'll continue to do so. And it's this. We're not inherently moral or ethical, right? But we all have the capacity. Everyone does. Everyone does. Children may be born innocent. They may be born innocent. And if they were left outside of human society, they'd probably, to a certain extent, barring anything else, maintain that innocence. Right? But humanity, as we are, and as we have been since the start of civilization, really, we all have that capacity within us, for good or bad, for good or evil. Evil is human. There's no greater whatevers, right? Evil is human. And so is good. All right? So yeah, we're not intrinsically moral or ethical. Anyone who thinks that is insane. Okay, and they're dumber than I am. Or they just don't have life experience, right? That's not intrinsic to us. But we do all have the capacity. That's the one big thing nobody takes away. Or if you bring it up, you're like me and you're labeled all the worst things in the book, right? Let's continue.
At which point, Dr. Clark distributed files to each of the members present. Inside each file were the same contents. A photograph of a man in his late 50s with receding grey hair, spectacles, a mustache, and a kind grandfatherly expression. Photographs of a typical suburban 3-bedroom house. Typewritten notes depicting a short personal history of Mr. Smith, and a short story written by Dr. Clark about Mr. Smith's untimely end in an auto accident. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, of course, that the person in your files is not actually Mr. Smith, but a random citizen, unknown to each of you. The real Mr. Smith, like our construct, is also deceased, which of course helps with any troublesome legal action down the road. The information before you is a focal point. You must spend the next several days familiarizing yourself with this material. Keep reading and reading until you are convinced that Mr. Smith is real. This is vital to establishing the correct baseline for our EEG monitors. When we attempt to knock twice for yes, all assembled at the table clearly indicated that they heard 2 successive knocks, seemingly emanating from the center. Later examinations of video records do not display any evidence of movement among any of the seated participants. Dr. Clark moved on to the next question on the list. The entity demonstrated knowledge of information supplied to participants, as well as the details of the life of Mr. These properties first became known after supplying participants with a regimen of 8A PDHQ desiccine. He then remarked that in light of Miss Lamelliere's injuries that he was glad that we hadn't imagined a hostile figure. This one was bad enough, thanks. End fragment. Fragment 21X. Document consistent with personnel reports kept by KGB administration. Date unknown, but assumed to be prior to 1982. Sergeant Chernikov has been noted by commanding officers to suffer from periodic episodes of what appear to be migraines. However, he has never sought medical attention. Whether this is related to the events in Krasnodar is unclear, but in any event, the investigation could not determine Sergeant Chernikov's exact role in the death of Private Bekhterev. Exoneration notwithstanding, Sergeant Chernikov has repeatedly demonstrated antisocial behavioral traits, unprovoked aggression against fellow unit members, and actions in the field that border on psychotic. Efforts to prevent knowledge and subsequent propagandization of Sergeant Chernikov's actions in the village of Mangwal far outweigh the strategic benefit originally sought by deployment of Weimpel. It is the opinion of this commission that despite the critical need for experienced personnel in Afghanistan, Sergeant Chernikov be removed from active duty and placed in psychiatric care. We can ill afford such an unpredictable operative in such sensitive mission areas. End fragment. Fragment 29B.
I don't know about that one. Because, the Soviet Union was known to really, push up, the criminally psychotic, who were of great use to the party. I don't know about that one, but then again, this is the SCP universe, so maybe that's how they function. Maybe they're much more, generally, balanced, I'll say that much, than the Soviet Union that I am familiar with.
Excerpts from the diary of Dr. Lavrentiev. March 21st, 1981. Researchers continuing to act edgy and insolent. Many resent being transferred to this project. Amusingly enough, it's not the goal we're trying to accomplish that bothers them. It's the means we're employing to get there. Many of them scoff at magic and ghosts, as they term it, and deride the work as unscientific. I know they call me Rasputin behind my back. It was a mistake to inform them of the whole picture. June 19th, 1981. New research team arrived today. Quickly divided up personnel into sub-teams, each focusing on a piece of the whole. Most of the work will be able to be explained under the auspices of direct mind interface software, neurological research, and observation of mass psychological suggestion. I can finesse the rest. Much better outlook. July 13th, 1981. The tests have been in line with what Agent Parks observed in Toronto. The question now is what happens when we recreate them on a large scale and with a suitable focus. I shall inform the KGB liaison to begin looking for personnel that fall within our parameters. October 29th, 1981. Finally installed Phase 2 personnel. I hate to use Yuri's connections, but the project must go forward, and I couldn't very well tell the committees to hurry up with my ghost squad. November 5th, 1981. Initial success made us too optimistic. When we ran the entity through a trial launch sequence, it refused. Clearly it knew how, because instead it disabled the mock launch terminal. Never considered what would happen if our creation wouldn't cooperate. I can't believe how stupid I've been. What the hell do I do now? December 13th, 1981. The Politburo has gotten involved. While this means my missing staff has been replaced, and funds are no longer a question, bad things happen when scrutiny comes from on high. Orders are to spare no effort or expense to move forward. Moscow sent a man who looked like a Cossack to deal with Alexei. I was told to take a vacation for a week. When I returned, both Alexei and the Cossack were gone. December 24th, 1981. New test subject provided by KGB liaison. Before I specified loyalty as a defining characteristic. This time I asked for... Need someone, something who can be trusted to activate and carry out perimeter. Golovkin appears to have been enough of a thug to do what Alexei couldn't. February 11th, 1982. This isn't working. Even in simulations. Maybe they're closer to understanding the real consequences attached to the symbolic actions they do. Politburo getting impatient. February 27th, 1982. New candidate identified. A Spetsnaz operative with undifferentiated cruelty to others. Promising. March 3rd, 1982. We've relied too much on pre-existing character traits. This time we will need to shall ensure that it will want to do it once it's set loose.
Indoctrination and brainwashing. Pretty much what they redacted there. Or at least that's my assumption.
End fragment. This concludes today's lecture. Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are, and you are all dismissed. Goodbye.
Okay, there we go, folks. There we go. SCP-1984, Dead Hand Keter, Hostile SCP, by the Volgun. I like the Volgun. I like them. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like the Volgun. It's pretty awesome. So I like it. What did y'all think? What did y'all think? Y'all let me know. Y'all let me know in the comments down below. Okay? Y'all let me know. I like these. I like these. I might do a lot more Volgun just for giggles and sniffles or something like that. Oh yeah, also I'm a little sweaty because I spent like almost 4 hours in the gym. Lost track of time. I was going to do something earlier, but my bad. My bad. But yeah, what did you think? What did you think? Y'all let me know in the comments down below. All right, you know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. The video's over, and do you like this? Do you like me? Okay. Do you like the Volgun? Do you like SCP? Do you like the combination of the content? Then please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't bother with the notification, but instead get into Discord. Get into Discord, because YouTube doesn't like sending out notifications unless you're like a multimillionaire YouTuber. Then, yeah, you get to send all the notifications you want, and they get all the top tier stuff. That being said, join the channel. Join the channel. There's a button behind the subscribe button. It says join. Click that, and you'll be shown 2 different tiers, all right? It'll give you the options, right? There's cheap and cheaper. One's okay human, one's decent human. Both of which help the channel to move forward. All right? The less we're relying on a few individuals, the better. And also, it's not going to break your bank at all. Like, at all. So, yeah, it's a big deal. Click the join button. That being said, be good. Be good. All right? Be safe. Right? Don't compromise safety and security for nobody and nothing. Right? If you work in a place, live in a place that makes you compromise on that and, you know, takes away your ability to ensure that for yourself, leave. Just leave. Go away. Get out of there. You know, move to a better place like Texas. That being said, also make good life for yourselves. All right? Disaster is only ever a second away. You never know when it's gonna hit you. So make the best of it you can right now. That being said, I'm off, and I'll see you all in the next one. Blast Cat Badger out.